taking lives with 1 round. The teacher was gunned down for teaching a young child. Korean speaks some English.
Alright, what's going on everybody? It's Philly Bo, and I am doing the long-awaited video that you guys have been requesting, and I told you that I was going to do, and that's the fan question video. And I want to dive right into this and not have a long introduction. If I didn't get to your question, I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance. I selected these randomly from the comments. Some of you asked the same question, and that's okay. I don't expect you to filter through the comments and look for other people that are asking the same questions. So let's dive right into this. Alright, the first question comes from Tristan Nicolosi. He asks, what is your favorite activity to do outside of touring? My favorite activity to do outside of touring is probably just spending time at home and seeing relatives and people that I don't get to see that often. I know that doesn't sound very exciting, but I mean I have a life outside of that too. I like to, me and the girl like to go out and stuff and do things together, go out to bars or go out to eat and, do that kind of thing. I like to sit at home. I like to play video games, watch TV, watch sports, and have friends over to the apartment. I'm outgoing, but I just don't really like to get out too much if I don't have to, and deal with people all the time. That's what I do for a living. It's not that people get on my nerves all the time or anything like that. I just like to sit at home and just hang out and just relax. Alright, the next question comes from Joe Baca, and he says, who or what inspired you to be a death metal vocalist? There was a movie called Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, and I know a lot of you probably know that movie. I'm a huge Jim Carrey fan, but back in the day, that movie came out in about the mid-90s, and that's where Cannibal Corpse made their huge debut to the world, basically. I saw the performance that they did on there, and I was absolutely just blown away. I was scared. I was like, what the fuck is this? Because it's the mid-90s, a lot of that stuff was just really wasn't accepted as it is today. And that's pretty much where I got started. It was whenever they had Chris Barnes, and they were doing Hammer Smash Face, and I remember going to record stores looking for that album, the cassette tape actually, the Tomb of the Mutilated. My mom wouldn't let me get it, so I had to just kind of sneak in there and buy it and hide it from her, and that's pretty much where all that started. The next question comes from MythHunter115, and he says, were you in any other bands other than Whitechapel? If yes, what do you miss about it? Yes, I was actually in a band with Ben Savage. He was the guitar player and I was the guitar player. And that's what I did before I started doing vocals. I was playing guitar for I played for about 6 or 7 years, gave it up to start doing vocals because that's really what I wanted to do. I still play guitar every now and then, but I just don't really dabble in it too much. We were in a band called Psychotic Behavior, and we were young, and we were doing the whole metalcore kind of genre. Unfortunately, it didn't really work out for us, and we were still young too, but a couple of the guys in the band, Louie and Nija, the drummer and the bass player, they were in a band called A Different Breed of Killer, and Whitechapel actually toured with them back in, I believe it was 2009, and we did a tour across America. We got to see what it was like being on tour together and everything like that, what we were wanting to do in Psychotic Behavior, but yeah. I do miss it. Those were the golden days. That's where it all started for me, and I couldn't thank those guys enough for letting me join that band, and that's where I met Ben, and we just moved on to Whitechapel. Alright, the next question comes from Purple Gorilla 9999, and he says, does anyone ever call you Philip? Yes, my family does. I've always been called that. I kind of just made the switch over to Phil whenever Whitechapel started. I just kind of started going by that. It was really weird for me to decide that at about the age of 20 or 21. But my family, like my close relatives, my sisters, grandparents, all my relatives call me that. Some of the guys in the band will randomly call me that, very rarely. But when they do, it's just kind of like in a joking manner. But yeah, my family still does call me Philip. And I actually spell it with one L. Alright, the next question comes from MudMonkey88, and he says, have you tried Battlefield 3? Yes, I have. I don't really like it. My reasoning for that is that I just don't really like those big open world maps like that. I just have to run forever to find someone, and Call of Duty has that problem sometimes. But yeah, I just like to get in there and just kill people and be shooting my gun constantly. And I just never really got into Battlefield 3. Alright, this next question comes from Crush to the Depths, and he says, can you do clean vocals? That is something that I can't really comment on. I can. I do it from time to time. Everyone sings and stuff like that. But whenever I do it, for real, I do it by myself, just like anyone else would, unless you're very confident about your voice. I dabble in it here every now and then. A lot of people tell me that I can, but I've never really heard my clean vocals on a professional recording, so I can't really tell you if I can or not. Alright, the next question comes from the Mr. Whitechapel, and he says, how long have you been doing vocals? I've been doing vocals, I guess if you want to be technical about it, about 10 years. I started whenever I was 15, before the whole psychotic behavior band and everything like that. I started doing them back then. I was screaming to Slipknot. I was just wanting to see what I could do with it. You know, I didn't really do it too much after that. In psychotic behavior, I was doing backup vocals, kind of like guttural type stuff, while I was playing guitar, and that shit's hard. And whenever I made this switch over to Whitechapel, that's where I just took vocals on full time. Alright, the next question comes from September Burns Red 4, and he asks, do you smoke weed? No, I don't. It just fucks with my head. I have tons of friends that do it. I just don't personally do it because it makes me get the spins and I puke every single time I do it, so fuck that shit. Alright, the next question comes from Erlen Romero, and he says, what is your favorite food? My favorite type of food, I don't really have a favorite specific food, but my favorite type of food is Italian food. I'm a sucker for that shit. If we ever go to Olive Garden or anything like that, I'm just going to have a heyday. I love Italian food. It's always been that way for me. Alright, the next question comes from Bosucks0912, and he says, what was your favorite album to record? My favorite album to record, and it's not just because it's the newest album, but the new album, the self-titled album, because we were in Tennessee, we were in a comfortable environment. I didn't have to travel to do anything. I was in my own state, my own hometown, so I just felt really comfortable doing it there. I could just go home whenever I wanted to. If I wasn't feeling it that day, I could just go back home and just relax and stuff like that. But it was a really fun experience. Our producer, Mark Lewis, flew up. Actually, he drove up, and he brought all of his equipment. We recorded the album at Alex's house, and they did the drums in Florida, but everything else was done inside of Alex's house whenever he brought his gear up. And that was definitely the easiest, most fun experience because we just got to chill out, hang out at Alex's house, and I got to sleep in my bed every night. Alright, the next question comes from Slippery Air, and they ask, how do you pronounce your last name? I'm very glad you asked that question because a lot of people get it wrong. I've heard many people call me Bozeman, and it is not Bozeman. It's Bozeman, just like the headphones. It's Bozeman. Alright, the next question comes from X Get Ready for War Adams, and he says, what is your favorite sports team? Well, my favorite sport is football, and my favorite team is the Tennessee Titans. But other sports like basketball, my favorite team is the Memphis Grizzlies and the Chicago Bulls. Baseball, I always support the Atlanta Braves, and those are the three main sports that I'll watch. Football more than any of them, but I'm obviously a UT fan, University of Tennessee. Any college sports, I'm always going to be a UT fan. Alright, the next question comes from Nelby Gaming, and it says, will you answer this question? No! Alright, the next question comes from Reanimaniac, and he says, what scares you the most? A lot of people are not going to expect this, but my biggest fear in this world ever is vomiting. I cannot stand it. I hate hearing it. I hate doing it. Just the feeling, it's just a big anxiety attack for me. And yeah, that is the thing that scares me the most. Really fucking weird, I know. Alright, and the last and final question comes from Brandon Smith, and he says, what do you think of the PS4 reveal? Alright, so as far as the PlayStation 4, I wasn't very satisfied with the business meeting that they had, or the presentation that they had. It showed off some pretty cool stuff, but it didn't really, I mean, I get it what they were doing. They were just kind of giving a sneak peek. There wasn't too much to really reveal except the controller and, you know, some of the graphics. But with the graphics and stuff, I mean, yeah, they looked amazing, but is it something I haven't seen before? No. I mean, you know, computers can do that already. And I mean, it's going to be cool because the convenience of a console, you can't beat that. But I am very excited for it. I will buy one. And, you know, it really depends. I might get the next Xbox. I might get the next PS4. It just really depends. I guess we'll just have to see in the future. Maybe at E3 this year they're going to show something more. I would imagine they're going to actually show the console there and show what other games are going to be coming out and things like that. I'm really looking forward to it. Alright guys, that wraps it up for me. I'm Philly Bo. Thanks for asking your questions. If you want to, post in the comments section of this video more questions that you want to know. I will do another video. I will get to other questions. I'm sorry if I didn't get to yours. I really apologize. I try to get to everybody, but thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
Motherfuckers sleeping on Jay too much. The jobs need to get them damn raises up. Feeling like slaves working for minimum wage. It sucks. You see, they still trying to